think so many marriages fail. I talk about that in my book, Love the One You're With. You're about to hear an audio recording from Chapter 10, which is called Obstacles, and that really talks about the barriers that you face when trying to fix your marriage. I personally think it's just that you don't have enough information. That's why I wrote this book, so I hope this helps.
Chapter 10 Obstacles. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. Audrey Hepburn. You can overcome your barriers. When I was leading the Incredible Years parenting training groups, I had a client named Linda who often voiced a million reasons why she couldn't do the things I was asking her to do. She legitimately had a lot going on in her life. She was a single mom with 3 kids, and she had 2 jobs. Her main barrier was a lack of time and energy. When she brought up these obstacles, even though I knew following the curriculum would change her life, I just validated her feelings. I knew trying to convince her to follow the program was a waste of time. But Linda had committed to the 12-week program, so she begrudgingly did the work despite her time limitations. Linda became one of my biggest success stories because she quickly realized that putting in the time on the front end paid off big time for her after only a few weeks. She started paying positive attention to her children instead of negative, and she noticed that her life had actually gotten much easier. Her kids started minding her more, started getting along with each other much better, and they were generally a lot more pleasant to be around. Not to mention, the older ones started helping around the house, which actually ended up saving her time. If you are like Linda, you may feel like you don't have the time or energy to work on your marriage. It may just seem like it is too big of a bite to chew all by yourself. If you feel that way, you are like almost all of the people that I have helped save their marriages. What do you think would have happened if Linda had waited for her kids to change before she could feel happy? When she realized that she could change her kids' behavior just by praising them and being more positive, she said she felt like she actually had more control. Back when I was seeing Linda, I didn't know anything about the law of attraction. I just knew that paying positive attention to behavior would increase that behavior in children. But do you see the connection? When you pay attention to things you appreciate, you start feeling happy, and the universe brings more positive things into your life. There is something more going on here than positive reinforcement, though that is also a factor. Release resistance to having a happy marriage. Let me get back to Linda's statement that she actually felt like she had more control. Control is something that I work on with my clients all the time. How do you feel about that word? You definitely don't want to lose control or be out of control, but how much do you try to control your partner or the way your marriage is going? The thing I want you to understand is that trying to control yourself, another person, or anything is not a good energy for you. Think about the analogy used by Abraham Hicks of holding a cork underwater. If you are trying to control something, you are holding the cork underwater. If you stop trying to control things and just relax and think positively, you will feel happier and things will start to work out for you. One of my favorite quotes by Henry Ford is, "Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right." How does this pertain to your marriage? People are notoriously resistant to change. I think the main reason is because of the programming that is locked into place at such an early age. If you decide to change, you have to go against all of the subconscious programming that is deeply ingrained into you. Tell a different story. I had a client named Stacy who was one of the most difficult clients I have ever worked with in my career. Stacy came to me after 2 failed marriages, and she was completely bitter not only about men, but about all people. She had deeply ingrained beliefs that people are liars, cheaters, and will manipulate anyone to get ahead. When we dug into those beliefs and released them, Stacy did not get better at first. I believe one of the reasons is because she was holding so strongly onto the belief that she is just a negative person, and nothing would ever change that fact. She could go on and on about how both of her parents and her sister are so negative. That is just the way we are, she would often say. What I want you to understand is that you are only the way you are because of all of your programming. You don't have to accept something like being a negative person. I worked with Stacy for several months, and she did eventually get better. She finally realized that her negative thinking was creating a life that she did not want, and that she could create a happy life by releasing resistance rather than pushing against everything she did not want. She ended up meeting a nice man, and she sent her sister to see me. Change the questions you ask yourself. I think another thing that keeps people stuck is the questions they ask themselves on a daily basis. Do you often find yourself asking questions like, why is marriage so hard? Why do I feel so angry? Why can't things just be like they were when we first got married? When you ask yourself why questions, it is literally like you are giving your subconscious mind an assignment. Your subconscious mind gets to work to find out why these things are happening, which actually makes these things happen more. What if instead you asked yourself questions like, how can I improve my marriage? Or how can I get that spark back and have the family I've always dreamed of? Do you notice a difference in how you feel when you read those questions? If you ask yourself how questions, you are telling your subconscious mind there is a solution, and it goes to work to help you find it. At this point, as you read this book, I want you to think about the barriers you face in improving your marriage. What are the things you keep telling yourself that keep you feeling stuck and unhappy? Following through with change. I have to wonder why people typically don't follow through with things to help themselves feel better. Resistance to change, maybe? I bet most people would say it is a lack of time and energy, like my client Linda. But my best guess is that the real issue comes from some subconscious fear. It could be a fear of a lot of things, like fear of the unknown, fear of failure, or even fear of success. Some people need another person to hold them accountable for making changes. Let's look at Linda as an example again. She signed up for the class, and I would have known if she either didn't show up or didn't do the assignments. I didn't pressure her at all, but she did the work anyway, and it paid off for her big time. How much do you want to save your marriage? I wouldn't be surprised if you are having similar thoughts to Linda's, like you don't have the time or the energy to do the things I am recommending. The reason I'm guessing that is because it's completely normal. Sadly, it is human nature. Maybe it's a collective consciousness idea we're all plugged into, but I know you can see that if a single mom with 3 kids and 2 jobs can do it, so can you. Plus, changing your mindset about your partner doesn't actually take any time. The people I have helped save their marriages had a few things in common. First of all, they could recall a time when they had an intense spark with their partner. At one time, they had common interests and a mutual respect for one another. But the main thing they had was an intense desire to stay in the marriage, despite the problems they were having. If you have this desire too, I believe that you can overcome any obstacle. But remember, you have to take action. Marriage has to be nurtured. Are you ready to do what it takes to re-energize your passion?